So you want to change the ATF on your Fiat? Really? It's supposed to be a lifetime fluid, you know, meaning you never have to change it. But if your mind's made up, this is how I did it. Start underneath the car. Well, first, jack up the car so you can get underneath it. Then, if you've got one of those plastic belly pans under there, remove that guy, and then you're looking for this thing. This is the drain plug on the automatic transmissions of the Fiat 500. And it's a little funny. But before we get to that joke, we first got to access this thing because there's a bar blocking access to it. And there's 4 bolts holding this bar on, 2 on either side of the vehicle. Remove at least 3 of these bolts, and then you can swing this bar out of the way. So for that drain plug, you're going to need, there's 2 plugs on there. Smaller one is this Torx bit here. This is a T40 Torx bit. And the bigger one is an Allen head or hex head bolt. This guy here. And this one is an H17. Both of these are needed to fully drain the oil on there. I have a kit for both of these, separate kits. I have one that is all Torx bits. I'll put a link in the description to that. And I have one that is all hex bits. But then once you get this guy off of here, it's kind of an interesting sort of design where here's what we saw when it was on the car with the little guy nested inside the big guy here. And so you first take off the little guy and you can see how this is set up. The little guy drains out stuff through this siphon. This is sort of like an overflow tube inside the transmission, and so this little guy exists so that you can adjust the fluid level on the transmission. If you put too much fluid in there, you can take this off and you can drain out a little bit of fluid at a time instead of the whole thing coming out. So that's why this exists. You can get about a quart or so out, but you can manage that much better with this little guy if you don't need a whole quart to come out. But once the little one is out, you can also see there's a little O-ring on there. The service manual recommends that you replace that O-ring when you take it off. There's also an O-ring on the big one as well. And again, it's recommended you replace that. But once you've got the little one off and the big one, you've got your big hex head socket, goes in there and you pull that off. And this guy, when you go to put stuff back on, of course you put the big one on first, your hex head socket, and this thing gets torqued down to 38 foot-pounds. And then when you reinstall the little one, this gets torqued to 71 inch-pounds. I have 2 separate torque wrenches for that because 71 inch-pounds is much smaller than 38 foot-pounds. And the fluid I got out of the transmission, oh God, the fluid. Look at this, it looks black on camera, right? Or if you're being nice, brown, but there is a slight red tinge to it seen under just the right light. Because originally this was red. It was red originally. This has been in there for so long and seen so many miles that it is now basically black. It's supposed to be a lifetime fluid on the transmission. Fiat does not recommend changing the transmission fluid at all. So we're gonna change it. What's recommended is a Mopar AW-1 is the recommended transmission fluid for this transmission. Internet lore says you can also use Valvoline Max Life, which is what we're gonna throw in there because I'm most likely gonna be changing this more than once to flush it out because this is so dark. We'll probably have to change it about 3 times. To refill the transmission, you're gonna wanna take the battery out, take this battery tray out. In order to take the battery tray out, there's a bolt down there and there's a bolt over here. And you want to disconnect these guys up here. Your computer is right here, this silver guy. And then there are a couple connections that run along the side here. You want to disconnect those. This guy is sort of attached to the front of the battery tray. You want to disconnect that guy. Then the tray should come out, and then you'll have access to get down here. Just down behind there, and on the very bottom, as you'll see on our demonstration engine over here, this is the transmission without the battery tray on it. You'll be looking something similar to this. And then behind, if you keep continuing back behind here, underneath all of this stuff, you will find this little plug there. Another Torx head plug on that one. And that Torx head, you're gonna need a T55 Torx head bit. All right, with the battery tray removed, we can begin to fathom the location of that bolt. Yeah, there it is. You see it? It's right there. Looking down straight past your brake fluid reservoir, right past there. That's where that bolt is. And you're gonna need literally like 2 feet of extension on your wrench. So you need a couple of these guys. There's extensions here, as well as at least one swivel socket there to make that work, to get that off of there. And then when you go to fill it up, you're gonna need quite a bit of hose as well to reach down in there to fill it up. All right, so this is literally the extension setup that I used. Let's measure this thing. I've got a swivel on the end. So how much extension did I actually use? So yeah, it is literally like 2 feet of extension, plus the swivel socket, plus the T55 Torx head socket. Once you've got it out, this is our fill plug. And again, it's got that rubber O-ring on there. Although replacing this shouldn't be as big of a deal as the drain plug because you're not gonna have fluid pressure on this all the time. I've got some rubber hose here. This is about 5/8 inch diameter, outside diameter. That fits right inside that fill hole. I've got it shoved into the transmission there. I've got a funnel. Put this inside the hose like that. Now I can fill fluid into the transmission. I'm gonna put about 3 quarts in first. All right, so this is what we're throwing in there. All right, now I'm going to use my special dipstick tool. It is tool number 10323 or 10323A, special dipstick from Fiat. And this dipstick has millimeter markings on it from 0 to 140 millimeters. If you're doing this with cold fluid with the engine not running previously, your dipstick should read 17 to 32 millimeters, and that's your sweet zone. That's where you want it to be. If the fluid is hot, if you've driven the car around and then you're measuring the fluid, the ATF is hot in there, it should be 27 to 40 millimeters. So with that done, I'm going to put our transmission fill plug back in there. There are no torque specs for this, so I'm just gonna tighten this down, hand tight. I'm going to reinstall that cross brace and torque it to 66 foot-pounds. Well, thanks for watching this video. This job, really not that bad of a job. You can probably do this in less than an hour. Thanks for watching this video. We'll see you next time. Keep on wrenching and have fun, people.